And now, join Pokemon trainer Jed for a non-stop, action-packed, laugh-filled, perilous journey. Turn your hat around, grab your Pokeballs, and get ready for the fantastic Pika Pals Podcast, where the excitement never ends.
Welcome to the Pika Pals Podcast. I'm your host, Pokemon trainer Jed, and I thank you for tuning in. It's your weekly Pokemon nostalgia trip filled with joy, laughter, and heartwarming life lessons from the always fascinating world of Pokemon. Now, before I get into today's show, I just want to extend my thanks for all of your support. A few mini milestones to celebrate, because episode 1 of my Pokemon podcast has now reached 100 individual listens. That's right, 100 of you have listened to episode 1 of my Pika Pals podcast. Now, I know in comparison to other podcasts, that may not seem like much of an achievement, but to me, that is a very big achievement that 100 people have listened to episode 1. Individual listeners, so it's not just me clicking replay 100 times. I only did that 98 times. I've got some statistics here of the geographic location of where people have listened to the Pika Pals podcast. So my little Pokemon journey that I started 3 months ago, a personal challenge for myself. And here are where people are now listening to the podcast. So we have listeners in the United Kingdom, the United States, Belgium, Canada, Germany, Russia, Sweden, New Zealand, Japan, the home of Pokemon, the Netherlands, and Brazil. So if you are listening right now to the Pika Pals podcast in any of those locations, please put a comment on the episode or reach out to me on social media. It'd be really great to connect with some of you guys from all over the world. The Pika Pals podcast is all across the globe. But that's enough for the intro. Let's get to today's episode. Okay, we are still on our Pokemon watch-along, rewatching every episode of the original Pokemon anime series, and I just got done watching episode 14. This one is called Electric Shock Showdown. It's the 14th episode of the original Pokemon animated series, and it was first broadcast on July the 1st, 1997 in Japan. It would go on to be shown on September the 25th, 1998 in the United States and beyond. Now here is a summary of the main plot points from this episode. I do encourage you to go back and watch it. You can find it on the Pokémon TV YouTube channel. You can find it on Netflix. You can find it on DVD. Might even have it on VHS if you dig around in the attic. But in this episode, we see Ash and the gang arrive at Vermilion City. However, Pikachu is injured, and Brock advises Ash that he would be unable to battle and he needs to get him to a Pokemon Center. So the gang arrive at the local Pokemon Center where there are many injured Pokemon, and most of them are there because they've been defeated by Lieutenant Surge, the Vermilion City gym leader. Ash, however, keen to challenge Lieutenant Surge once his Pikachu is healed, and despite Pikachu's fear of Lieutenant Surge and Lieutenant Surge's mockery of Pikachu, calling him a cute Pikachu, but he's kind of mocking the fact that he's unevolved, Ash proceeds with his attempt to battle Lieutenant Surge, and Lieutenant Surge has a Raichu as his Pokemon. But this first battle doesn't go well. In fact, Pikachu loses to Lieutenant Surge due to Raichu having superior power, being much stronger.
Raichu, show him a real Thunder Shock! It's over, baby. You didn't really think that Pikachu could beat my Raichu, did you?
We do see Team Rocket in this episode hatching a plan. This time they want to catch Raichu, however. Instead of catching a Pikachu, why not just skip straight to the evolved state and catch a Raichu instead? Now, Ash has a decision to make in this episode. He has to consider whether he wants to evolve his Pikachu using a Thunderstone. There are certain types of Pokemon that you can evolve using evolution stones, but Ash is unsure what to do. He has quite a bond with Pikachu, and he decides to let Pikachu make the final decision. Pikachu refuses to evolve this way. He wants to battle Lieutenant Surge and Raichu one more time as himself, as Pikachu. So, it's the rematch. Lieutenant Surge and Raichu versus Ash and Pikachu. But how are they going to win? Strategy. Because Raichu has evolved using a Thunderstone, he cannot learn some of the moves and skills that can only be learnt while you're a Pikachu. So Ash uses this to his advantage. Ash and Pikachu decide to use the fact that Pikachu is much faster than Raichu, and this is ultimately Lieutenant Surge's weakness. Because the fact he was unable to learn these earlier speed-based attacks, and because he evolved too quickly, Lieutenant Surge and Raichu will lose this battle.
Unbelievable!
We did it, Pikachu!
Way to go!
Fantastic!
Hooray!
Victory!
Ash comes out on top and wins the Thunder Badge, another gym badge in Ash's pocket as he continues on his Pokemon journey. And it was thanks to Pikachu's strategy, proving that he didn't need to be evolved. He didn't need to be a Raichu in order to win this match. There were advantages to him being unevolved. He was able to use his tail to insulate himself from an electric shock attack. In fact, we see him stood up just on the tip of his tail at one point. And he's able to use some very powerful quick attacks, which ultimately would win him the match. By the end of this episode, Team Rocket realised that they've actually spent so long watching the events unfold, and they've unintentionally, kind of helped Ash throughout the episode, that they haven't actually caught Raichu, they haven't caught Pikachu, they've just kind of been watching the gym battle unfold. So Team Rocket kind of sidelined in this one, but it was nice to see them make an appearance and nice to see them kind of, cheering on the good guys. And that would be this episode. That would be the Electric Shock Showdown. Could have called it Raichu's You, I suppose. Speaking of Raichu, I'm going to whip out my Pokedex because Raichu is this week's Pokemon Spotlight. Raichu. National Pokedex number is 26. He is an electric type Pokemon. However, the Alolan version is actually an electric and psychic type Pokemon. Raichu has the abilities of Static. He has a hidden ability of Lightning Rod, and the Alolan Raichu also has the ability of Surge Surfer. Raichu is a rodent Pokemon with dark orange fur, a white underbelly, large brown ears, and a lightning bolt-shaped tip of its tail. It can store electricity in its cheeks, similar to Pikachu, and it's capable of storing over 100,000 volts, so that would come in handy if your iPhone went flat. Raichu, however, is rarely found in the wild. They do prefer woodlands and forests. And here's a fun fact for you. Raichu is even known to discharge electricity while it sleeps. So if you think you can sneak up on a Raichu and catch it while it's asleep, you might be in for a shock, literally. Raichu evolves from Pikachu and is the final form of Pichu. So Pichu evolves into Pikachu, who evolves into Raichu. The Alolan Raichu is the only Pokemon with its specific type combination of electric and psychic. And in the Pokemon Yellow Nintendo game, Pikachu cannot directly be evolved into a Raichu, and that's in reference to this specific episode, where Pikachu decided to remain as a Pikachu and not evolve. So in the Nintendo game, you can't directly evolve Pikachu into Raichu on Pokemon Yellow. The physical appearance of the Raichu character kind of resembles a kangaroo rat with its long ears and tail. And Raichu's name may be a combination of Rai, to mean thunder, and Chuchu, which is a mouse's squeak. Now, continuing with the Pokemon trivia, I have done some research and found some fun trivia and facts for this particular episode. So here's an episode deep dive. In this episode, we see that Pikachu has a dislike for Raichu, despite the fact that Raichu is his evolved form. Now, when Pikachu first battles Lieutenant Surge, we see Meowth polishing an extra coin. However, it's later revealed that Meowth is unable to use Payday, so he wouldn't be able to produce extra coins, so who knows where he got this one from. Maybe stole it from Lieutenant Surge. The Thunderstone that Ash was given in this episode, he didn't use to evolve Pikachu. Pikachu didn't want to evolve into Raichu that way, he wanted to stay as himself. And Ash actually keeps this Thunderstone for 523 episodes later, where he's using it in an episode Pika and the Goliath, but it gets stolen by Team Rocket. This is one of the first episodes of the Pokemon anime series where Team Rocket disguise themselves. We do see them dress up in various costumes and disguises throughout the series, and the disguise that they're wearing in this episode, here's a deep cut for you, is actually a reference to a manga series called A Flower Cheering Team, and Jessie even does the pose of the main character by sticking her tongue out. However, their disguise was not enough to fool Ash and the gang, because this is also one of the only episodes where Ash, Misty and Brock see straight through the disguise and can tell that it's Team Rocket. Although they don't very often, in future episodes, they cannot tell Team Rocket's disguises, even though sometimes, they're pretty obvious. This is one of the first episodes where Ash would win a gym badge by actually defeating a gym leader in battle. Like Misty has referenced previously, Ash has been kind of awarded his gym badges out of good faith, but in this particular episode, he defeated Lieutenant Surge straight up to win the gym badge. This is also the first episode in which a member of Team Rocket refers to Ash by his name, which would be Meowth, as they say that they're showing their support for the brave Pikachu and Ash. This was the first time that we see an episode where Team Rocket kind of show, different side of themselves and are actually supporting the main characters. Speaking of Team Rocket, we see James breaking the fourth wall. We're down to 3 walls again, folks, as at the end of this episode, James actually says, "Drat, we wasted this episode cheering the good guys." And this also would be the first time that Team Rocket in particular break the 4th wall. However, Team Rocket may have reason to celebrate, because in this episode, Team Rocket did not blast off again. They were able to survive this episode unscathed. Part of the story from this episode is adapted into a Pokemon book called I Choose You, and Pikachu and Raichu's voice actors are apparently a reference to the series Bakuzo Koyaida, where 2 brothers share the same voice actor. Speaking of voice actors, the late great Rachel Lillis actually provides the voice for Pikachu in this episode, in the scene where he is seen to be shocking Ash. We see a city name change, where the sign that would say "Welcome to Kachiba City" in the original Japanese version is changed to say Vermilion City in the dubbed version. We also see a dubbed battle modification, as in the English dub, there is an extended shot of Raichu missing Pikachu with its body slam, and that sequence is shortened to a shot of Raichu's final Thunderbolt in the dubbed version. Pikachu and Raichu's voices are removed in the English dub during the agility confusion scene, and we also have some rewritten dialogue here. I always find it interesting to see what gets changed between the original Japanese broadcast and when it gets translated into different languages. And Team Rocket's dialogue about Pikachu's attack gets rewritten, replacing the pun about Pikachu's tail with a series of puns about electricity, which Meowth then quickly swipes both Jesse and James across the face for making too many puns. I mean, you can have too many puns. There comes a time when there can be too many puns. Now I'm going to look into some of the comments about this episode, but first, got to take a pause for the cause. We've got to keep the lights on in the Pika Pals studio, although I could use a Raichu for that with all the voltage that it holds. But I'll be right back after a quick message from our sponsors. Hey there, Pika Pals. You've probably noticed how the lovable Caterpie is always ready to evolve and grow. Well, are you ready to take your finances to the next evolutionary stage? Let me introduce to you Caterpie, the friendliest bug-type digital wallet that'll make you feel as snug as a Caterpie in its cocoon. Our little green buddy is always up for a good string shot, and with a Caterpie, your money will stick to you as tightly as Caterpie's string sticks to a tree. Plus, it'll transform your finances with features so good, you'll swear they're as magical as a bug-type Pokémon attack. Caterpie is not only cute, but also mighty secure. Just like how Caterpie evolves into the majestic Butterfree, Caterpie ensures your financial journey grows to new heights with ironclad protection. And exclusively for you, Pika Pals Podcast listeners, Caterpie has a special offer. Use the code Caterpie when signing up, and you'll get a whopping 10% off transaction fees for the first 3 months. That's right, 10%. So take advantage of this sweet deal to transform the way you handle your finances. Now you too can join the ranks of the fully evolved with Caterpie, here to help you achieve that mega evolution. Give Caterpie a try today, and remember to tell them all that the Pika Pals podcast sent you. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to the Pika Pals Podcast. I am your host, Pokemon Trainer Jed, and today we've been talking about episode 14, Electric Shock Showdown. I've looked all across the internet and found some viewer comments from real Pokemon fans who have watched this episode. So it's time for a segment that I like to call IMDb the very best, like no one ever was. You know, because I got the ratings and the comments from IMDb. It sounds like the lyrics. Clever name. Anyway, here are some viewer comments. Seikbushi Po said, epic. Jan says, in the previous episode, they didn't know who the giant Pokemon was. But in this episode, the Pokédex casually mentions that a Raichu's Thunderbolt can rival that of a Dragonite's. Where's the consistency? Well, I suppose, you know, Ash didn't know about the Dragonite in the previous episode, but the Pokédex knows about everything. Kizuki Ki says, It was actually Brock who had the correct strategy. Ash didn't do anything. Andrea said, Surge's Raichu has like 7 moves. Mega Kick, Mega Punch, Thunder Shock, Thunderbolt, Takedown, Body Slam, and Tail Whip. That's all that comment says. Thanks, Andrea. So those were your comments. Thank you very much. That's what you guys thought of Pokemon Season 1 Episode 11. And it's now the time of the show where I tell some Pokemon jokes. It's Jokemon. Pokemon jokes, Pokemon jokes, Pokemon jokes. Let's see what we got. I decided to get in touch with my inner Pokemon, so I called him up. He said, leave me alone or I'll call the cops. A Pokemon trainer asked me if I could get Bulbasaur, Charmander and Squirtle. I said, sure, but it'll cost you an arm and a leg. He said, I can't afford that. I said, well then you're going to have to settle for just one. I saw a Pokemon trainer the other day with a Pikachu on a leash. I thought to myself, that's ridiculous. Everyone knows Pikachu is a wild Pokemon. It should be in a Pokeball, not on a leash. That's really bad. Pikachu doesn't like going in his Pokeball. Okay, let's see what else we've got. I was walking through the Pokemon Center and noticed a sign that said, no Pokemon battles allowed inside. I thought to myself, well that's good. I wouldn't want to accidentally step in on any Pokemon battles. I was playing Pokemon Go the other day and a wild Pidgey appeared. I threw a Pokeball, but it missed. The Pidgey looked at me and said, you're not very good at this, are you? I said, well, I'm not a Pokemon trainer. I'm a comedian. That's doubtful. I don't think that I'm either. Well, that does it for this week's podcast. That's the end of the episode, and you know what that means. Somehow, someway, we'd have to say goodbye. Do 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 do. Thank you for listening, Pika Pals. Don't forget to leave a review and a rating to help others discover the show. And please share this episode with a friend or family member or anyone that you think may enjoy the podcast. You can catch me across all the socials at Yeetamania. I've been Jed, this has been the Pika Pals Podcast, and you've been a real Pika Pal.
The show may be over, but the journey continues.